Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Saturday. We are here during Women's History Month to talk about some stuff that girls should know, that women should know. I have my friend here and dear colleague, Tiffany White, who is a commissioner for the Philadelphia Commission for Women. We are so excited to be here with you today to talk about your personal brand and your personal story and how both of those things can inspire movements, civic engagement, coalition building, and everything under the sun. So we're going to get started. Listen, some folks are early. I know people are still joining us. They're coming in. But we'll first give some introductions. First of all, this is the 2022 Summit for Women and Girls, organized always beautifully by the Mayor's Office of Engagement for Women and their fearless leader, Jovita Hill. And we are so excited as the Mayor's Office of Youth Engagement to be a part of it. To introduce myself, my name is Jeanette Bavlidinci. I am the director of the Mayor's Office of Youth Engagement. In my role, we oversee the work of the Philadelphia Youth Commission, which are our commissioners that are aged 12 to 24, and the Millennial Advisory Committee, which are our commissioners that are aged 25 to 40-ish. So everything that we do, we try to make sure that the administration, community partners, internal and external folks are working hard to make sure we are serving the young people of Philadelphia. So it's my honor to be here. I'm excited, and we're going to get started. So a few housekeeping things as we begin. I ask you all, please use the chat. We are monitoring the chat for commentary, for folks to hear what you're thinking about, what we're sharing, to share personal stories. We will be looking at it all. So please use the chat. Also, please be kind. We are here to learn together. For me, there's no such thing as messing up. Even if I stumble, we're all human. So please be kind, especially in the chat. Also, please grab a pen and a pad to write down your questions. We will try to answer questions at the end. We'll save some space just in case folks have some things that they want to share. And then also, please in the chat as well, let us know if we use a term that you don't understand. I should not do that because I know better. But if I do, please be sure to let me know and say, hey, can you go back and kind of explain what you meant there? And then lastly, please participate. It's way more fun when everyone is involved. Obviously, folks are in the chat, so the chat is going to be live, and you're not on camera, but we ask you to talk back to us. We enjoy that very much. So this is our agenda for today. Under the guise of your voice, your power, your vote, we're going to talk about how your personal story and your personal branding, as I shared earlier, can inspire movement. So first, we're going to have Tiffany share her story with us, her personal story. And I'm very interested to see how her story lands with you, how it made you feel. And then we will move forward into the rest of our presentation. So without further ado, Tiffany, please share with us, talk to us a little bit.
Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Awesome. So thank you. First and foremost, I would like to thank you, Jeanette, for allowing me to be in this platform and space to talk to everyone about my own personal story. It's been, this story that I have has been in my life for a very, very long time, of course, but it has helped me become the person that I am today, number one. And number two, I also learned the power of forgiveness with this story. And so I'm going to share it with everyone now. So again, my name is Tiffany White. I'm from South Philadelphia, born and raised, a particular area called Point Breeze. I've been in Point Breeze my entire life. When I was 13, my parents decided to move in the suburbs for a little bit, but I still had family, friends, people I grew up with in South Philly. So I always say I had the best of both worlds. I had the suburban life, and then I had the neighborhood life. So it all kind of balanced out. So one day, when I was 16 years old, visiting my grandmother, I had just recently had just got my hair done, and I was coming back from, and I was in the area of West Oak Lane. My parents found this young lady was doing hair in her house, and I went and got my hair all done up and did up, and came back down South Philly, by way of Subway, and was just hanging out with my friends. And I was in front of my grandmother's door, and the unfortunate thing was there were a number of young men that were arguing at the corner of the block where my grandmother lives. And I was just talking to my girlfriend, and we just like, oh, they're down there arguing. We kind of knew some of the guys; they looked very familiar to us. And what happened was, the argument escalated, and it escalated to the point where guns were drawn. And before I knew it, a shooting happened. And I was trying to get out the way. My girlfriend was trying to get out the way, and I was able to run into the house, but I was already shot. So at 16 years old, I was shot in my back, as an innocent bystander. Um, and it was a traumatic ordeal. My friends and my families, they rushed in the home. Then they called the ambulance. They came, and they wanted to make sure that I wasn't paralyzed, and they rushed me to the hospital. And I went to the hospital, and the doctor was like, you are blessed, you're a miracle. Like, you survived this. The gun that I was shot with was a 45, so it was a very huge gun, a big gun, a big bullet. And what happened was, with the miracle that was in it, it went through a van, and by going through the van, it slowed the impact down before it hit me in my back. It was literally 1 inch from my spine. At the time, I was going to 12th grade. And so it was just like, all of this is happening to me. I can't believe this. I dealt with low self-esteem about it. I didn't want to wear like summer tops that had my back out. It was just so many things that was going on. And so my mom was very, very, of course, supportive and helping me through all of this ordeal. And so, after that happened, I kind of stayed out in the suburbs for a little bit. I still would come down and visit, but not that much. I also actually deal with, kids in the neighborhood, like, saying, oh, why, what happened? Why did it happen to you? You shouldn't say anything. The person that shot you in your back, this, that, and the other. So fast forward, I had to go to court. So I went to court, and the young man who shot me in my back, served 10 years in prison. Had to testify, and that was a horrible, traumatic, again, ordeal in front of a bunch of people, the judge, the lawyers, people looking at me, and I'm on the stand testifying against a young Black man in my community. So imagine that. That was like the worst feeling in the world. And so, he served 10 years in prison. And I went on with my life, and he was in prison serving his time. And then one day I happened to be in South Philly again, and at my family, because like I said, my family and friends live down here. So I still came down to visit and things like that. And he happened to be walking through the same street, where I got shot. And I have two daughters, they're 21 and 23, and I taught them forgiveness from the door. I always told them, like, listen, you got to forgive people. You can't, hold any grudges, things of that nature. And I shared with them my story, and when they learned about it, they was like, oh, mommy. So one day when he was coming through the block, they actually waved to him like, hi. And he just recently, and it's so much more to the story, Jeanette knows, just recently, he told me that he was shocked that my daughter spoke to him. He thought that I was mad at him. He thought that, I had this grudge against him for the rest of my complete life. So fast forward really quickly, because I know we're on time. So I forgave him. I forgave him for shooting me in my back. I forgave him for the traumatic experience that I had. I just forgave this young man. Hence now he is about 51. It happened when he was 22. He's a grandfather. He has a wonderful grandson. I just recently, and I'm helping him now with something, believe it or not. Before that, I helped him with an issue he was having with his mom. His mom was very sick, and he needed some resources for healthcare for a healthcare agency. And he called me at the office that I work. I work for Councilman Kenyatta Johnson as well as being a commissioner, and he's a constituent, so I helped him. And from there, I helped him with his situation with his mom. His mom did pass away, but he was grateful and thankful that I helped him. And so when I talk about this story, I do get a little emotional like I am now, but it's just amazing that you can have the spirit of forgiveness of someone that did something to you that could really have caused a complete tragedy in your life. You could have died. I could have died. It's just a number of things, but I look at the bright side of this, and it's all about showing love towards one another. This man served his time, right? And he did what he was supposed to do, and now he's a productive citizen in society. He works, and just recently he called me again, and I'm helping him with something that's tying him up with the justice system. And I feel as though that what he's dealing with is like a thumb, like he can't move, he can't do this, he works, but it's something that's holding him back, and I don't have a problem with helping him. And so I did see something in the question, but I know you're going to get to the questions in it. How did I forgive him? I'm gonna be totally honest. God helped me get to this point with him. Just having a relationship with God and just talking to God about my situation. I do journal writing. I write things down. I get it out. And at the end of the day, we can't hold. We can't hold grudges. We gotta figure out a way to maybe work through therapy, maybe talk to someone that's close to you to help you understand. I know it's hard. I could have had so much anger in me. He could have had so much anger towards me. It didn't happen that way. And I'm so grateful for our continued relationship. And I'm just grateful to be here to be able to tell my story. Thank you all for listening.
Tiffany, thank you. First of all, we are so glad that you're here. We are so glad that you are able to be a role model for forgiveness and grace, because a lot of people, those are two heavy things to hold at the same time. I think as we celebrate Women's History Month, it is an example about how much women hold, right? This personal story has so much gravity, but how Tiffany has been able not only to use that personal story and be gracious enough to share with us, even though it probably taps into some emotional trauma every time. Her bravery in being able to tap into that space to use it to organize. I know that in Councilperson Kenyatta Johnson's office, y'all do a lot of gun violence work. You do a lot of community work with Black men and boys, right? And so to be able to organize in that way, even though you have this personal story that is so impactful, is huge. And so that's what we're talking about. We're talking about how your story and your brand and who you are, how you can use that to shed light and younger women how to press forward, right? While still acknowledging feelings, because that is something that we are continuing to learn as women, right? Like, how do we press forward, but still acknowledge our pains, our suffering, and kind of build a sisterhood around that? So Tiffany, thank you. We adore you. We will come back in the chat. I know there were some questions. People are showing you love, Tiffany, in the chat. So please feel free to type one back to them. But we're going to move forward a little bit. So your personal story, we all have a personal story, right? And I want to switch gears briefly to talk about brand. Every brand you see right here has a personal story. I'm going to watch the chat. Folks, pick one of these brands and give me one word to describe these brands. Just one. I'm watching the chat now. And I hope folks know these brands. They are iconic. No? Let me ask Tiffany. Tiffany, one of these brands that you see up here, give me a word that describes it.
One of the brands,
Yeah.
wealthy.
Is that for Mercedes-Benz?
Yes.
Absolutely. I see it in the chat. I see Take Action. Sandra, which one of these brands make you think of taking action? Is it Nike? I see Excellence Hamburgers, absolutely for McDonald's. Yes,
Just do it.
let's do it, right? And so these brands are iconic not because of these symbols, it's because of the story behind the symbol, right? Tiffany picked it up. Mercedes, there are words that you think about when you see that little TriStar situation. It's luxury, it's sophistication. Some people are intimidated by it, right? But there's a brand story. And like Tiffany just shared, each of us have a brand story. My mom always asked me, when you walk in the room or when you walk out of the room, there is a feeling that people have when they say your name. That is your brand. Whether people say, oh, Tiffany, and they smile, or they say Jeanette and they like roll their eyes, right? There is a feeling that is your brand, that is your reputation. Each one of us have them, right? So let's move on forward. So, who are you? I know we're not trying to cause an existential crisis, but I would love for you to pop in the chat how you define yourself in 3 words, 3 words only. Tiffany, you can do it live with me. You don't have to put it in the chat.
So I'm going to say strong, powerful, and amazing.
I love it. I love it. I'm gonna go. I see Sandra said bold, committed, and proud. Love that.
Yes.
Dr. Janita, ordained, ambitious, and resilient. Yes. Victoria, daughter of God, enthusiastic, compassionate. Yes. Carmina, fearless, fervent, and fabulous. Come on, Triple F. Yes. I think I'm gonna go tenacious, empathetic, and joyful. I see Tashina, loyal, loving, and powerful. I love it. And I love that all of these words are powerful, positive words, right? This is how we like to see ourselves. And oftentimes, why I ask you to define yourself in 3 words is because sometimes when we define ourselves, it's not always what people would say about us, right? People have a ton of different things they say about us because of different experiences that we've had with those folks, right? In those spaces. However, it is always important to be able to take back the reins and say, no, this is how I define me. I don't let you define me, right? Now, we all have flaws and things that we need to work on, right? But it is very important to always remind yourself that you have the power to define yourself. I see some more coming in. Anointed, faithful, thriver. Yes, strong, powerful, and amazing. Fearless, passionate, and resilient. Yes, love that. So let's talk about it. So I would not be the millennial that I am if we did not talk about personal branding from social media perspective and from a 2022 lens. So let's hop right into it. So traditional versus social networking. What is the difference? Why are they important? Why is the distinction important, right? So traditional networking, everybody knows what that is, right? It's a process that fosters an exchange of information and ideas among individuals, groups with common interests, right? So you get invited to a party or an event for your office or something else, a conference, right? And you go there and you meet folks, right? Oftentimes you don't know each other. That is an example of a space where you're able to tell folks who you are, share your personal brand for the first time, define yourself for others, and make connections among common interests, right? Social networking, very similar. However, there are a few nuances in social networking that makes it a completely different world, right? And so, especially if any of you know any millennials or members of Gen Z, coalition building and creating communities, the opportunity, the difference between traditional networking and social networking is that the net just expands when you go to social networking, right? Because you don't have to be in the room with someone, right? You could talk to somebody from Texas, you could talk to somebody from Japan, right? That you never met, but and build community with those folks. So it's completely different. So let's get on into why is building your brand important? Your audience is your leverage. Yeah, I don't know. And there are folks in chat. I know y'all have come from a ton of different backgrounds, maybe teachers and educators. I think we got some pastors in here, right? Your audience is your leverage. Your community is your leverage. You're only as powerful as the community that is behind you and around you, right? Also, it helps you build your credibility. You can think that you are the best or the master at something as much as you like. If you look around the room and nobody's backing you up, and it's crickets, Tiffany, what that mean?
It's like, listen, you ain't got nobody back you up, and it's crickets. It's like you on your own at that point.
That's right. And you lose credibility in that way. So building credibility comes from people. I know a lot of y'all folks use LinkedIn, right? You know, there's a function on LinkedIn where people can endorse you, right? They go in there and say, Tiffany is a great public speaker. Tiffany is a great community organizer. Tiffany is a great advocate, right? Again, you just saw us, we defined ourselves, but as humans, we have to be in relationship with each other, right? So it is important that your community around you can endorse that you are who you credibility, which has become when people feel like they know you, especially from social media, they are more likely to feel comfortable to reach out, right? I know Tiffany, I'm gonna ask her too. Tiffany has an Instagram account. You don't mind if I mention this, Tiffany?
No, go ahead.
Say it. Fit Yes.
Fit Tiffany.
Fit Tiffany. And so Tiffany's Instagram account has a lot of content. She has curated it in a way that she is doing healthy lifestyle, exercise, kind of, wellness content as a Black woman. Well, if you identify with that, if that's the space you are in your life, you feel comfortable reaching out to Tiffany because you kind of feel like you know her, right? Like, ooh, yeah, she reminds me of my sister, my cousin. Like, I like this. I'm going to follow her, right? So cold outreach becomes warm because you kind of feel the familiarity that you would, and that is different from if you just saw Tiffany in a room and you had to do this like introduction thing, right? Also, it allows you to get the invite. A lot of times from social media, people will see your content and say, hey, I see what you're doing here. I would love to invite you to a conference about Black women's wellness, right? Like Tiffany, I'm sure you've gotten people reach out to you about stuff like that just based upon who you define yourself as in the public space.
Yeah, definitely. People have reached out, looked at my Instagram and was asking like, how can I get on board? What should I do to try to, live more healthier? Mm-hmm.
That's right. And then it allows you to reach for the stars. And when I say literally, I mean literally. Social media has made it so, and you will see that Gen Z and millennials have this celebrity and folks of stature or famous folks used to feel very far away, but social media has kind of leveled the playing field where you can speak to folks who you think you would never be able to speak to in your entire life. Now, will they answer? That's a completely different conversation. However, you are able to reach out and send out, and there are a lot of people who have been able to build careers and movements off of conversing with folks that they would have never had the opportunity to see. You can go on Twitter and Instagram right now and at Barack Obama. You can do that. What? You can never add a president. You're not talking to a president, right? And he may respond. How about that? Which is insane. So this is the importance of building your brand. So I wanted to give you a real life example. I don't know if you all know Quinta Brunson. Quinta is a millennial content creator, screenwriter, actor, and I call her a hometown hero. So talk about building your brand. In 2014, there was an app called Vine. Vine allowed you to make 7-second videos of like whatever, something funny, and it would just loop and loop and loop. So she made a video on YouTube and Vine called He Got Money. And it was just like this funny little sketch about her going on a date with this guy, and he ordered like a large popcorn and a large drink. And she's just like, oh, he got money. She was surprised that he was able to order that because movie stuff is expensive. From there, she had a viral GIF, which is like a small, moving video of her dancing. this Millie Rock video came out, and everybody showed at the same time she was building an audience. People were like, oh, she's funny. She was gaining followers. People were paying attention to her. Celebrities were like, oh, that's the girl from the He Got Money, right? Sketch. So after 2016, she started working for a media company called BuzzFeed, which is catered toward millennial and Gen Z folks. Like funny art, sketches, YouTube video content. And she became a star on there, and people loved her. They loved her videos. They loved the time she was. And then to today, she has fastest growing, one of the most popular BC Abbott Elementary. I don't know if you all watch it. I see in the chat. Oh, Tiffany, you were saying she's amazing. Yes. Abbott Elementary. I don't know if y'all watch that. That is Quinta. And so to show you how she built her brand from 2014 by just being continuous and posting and sharing her content and being who she is. It took her from Vine, a little 7-second app, to having an ABC show as a Black woman in Women's History Month as a millennial. And I can tell you, as a millennial from Philadelphia, we are so incredible. I'm sure we all are, but we are so incredibly proud of her and her journey. But that's where building a brand can get you, right? So I say, how does this connect, right, to what we're talking about with personal story? So on the side there, you see that she's doing a scholastic book drive. So she stopped home here. She went to Mastery Charter and is doing book drives all around the country because her personal story as a young Black woman from the city of Philadelphia, who was a part of Philadelphia School District, who saw that there's something that needed to be addressed. She obviously has a skew toward education, right? Because she wrote an entire show about it. How the impact of her teacher in 6th grade, Miss Abbott, that's who the show is named after, the impact, her personal story, a teacher made an impact so great on her that she decided to write a TV show about it and is now able to go back using her personal story to organize and mobilize and push forth causes that she cares about, right? So now she's able to come back to the city of Philadelphia and do book fairs and go around the country and do education organizing, all because of her personal story, right? So it's incredibly important that even if we're fearful, right, that we're able to, like Tiffany just so bravely did, we're able to see the value in our story and see how it can move mountains, right? I see in the chat, Miss Vanessa said the show is fantastic. It is, I agree. We are all fans. So let's move on forward. Curating your social life. So social media, it allows you to perfect your elevator pitch. I know we've all heard about the elevator pitch. How long is the elevator pitch supposed to be, Tiffany?
I think 3 minutes. No, 3 minutes.
30 seconds.
Oh, 30.
Yes. So I any public speaking class I've ever been in, the elevator.
Oh, somebody said 15 seconds.
15 seconds. Oh, Dr. Bennett. Oh my. So we don't got a lot of time, right? Social media allows for you to perfect your elevator pitch, define yourself for others like we did earlier, and create the network that you would like to have, right? What's so important about that is, like, very seldom, it's like family, right? You don't get to choose your family. Your family you just born here and you're like, I'm just here, right? But with your friends and your network, you have the ability to choose who you want to be in community with. That's what's so cool about social media, because you can really build out your profiles and your platforms in a way that you're in community with folks that you want to be with. If Tiffany, I'm sure Tiffany, a lot of the folks that she follows and follows back on her Instagram are a lot of wellness, Black women who do wellness and fitness and nutrition. She built a community online, right? So it's very important. So for folks, I would love to see in the chat, who in the chat, do you all have Twitter and Instagram? Just give me a yes or a no.
Well, I have Instagram. I don't have Twitter.
Okay. I see Dr. Bennett, yes. Jesse, yes. Okay. Jovita, no. Yes to Twitter. Yes. Instagram, yes. Girl, at 65, my daughters are pushing to it. Yes. Yes, but not all the time. I'm gonna share this with you. As women, it is very important. I know you may not want to use it all the time. I know it seems like a big, scary world. Get a Twitter account, get at least one social networking profile, just one. You could choose Facebook, you could choose Twitter, you could choose Instagram. whatever makes you feel most comfortable, but you should have a space, they call it online real estate, a space where you're able to share out your voice, things that you want to share. People should be able to find you if they need to, right? Maybe folks are applying for jobs. Even with job applications now, folks will look you up. They will look you up.
That's true.
Yeah. They will say, and I know, I'm sure Tiffany has done it. Anybody who's been on a hiring committee, they will look you up to see if you have a social media presence and a brand. It is important. And in these days, even though it's 2022 and not everybody's on social media, people kind of judge that folks don't have a presence. It makes them feel like, well, who are they? Why are they not? You know what I mean?
Right. That's true.
So you can keep it simple. I know folks are like, I don't know, not all the time, but keep it simple. Write about your interests. Keep your priorities straight, keep it tight about what you care about, your passions and your interests, and keep keywords in mind. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Jovita said, if I shared out my opinions on Twitter, I'd be fired. Jovita, no, you wouldn't. And then, but don't waste space. Don't use a wash and rinse bio, which we will talk about momentarily. And then don't leave space empty. Okay. Smith Sandra said, I have an account, just got to warm up to it. That's right. I got the real estate, just ain't put no property on it. Miss Sandra, we're going to put some property on that thing today, after today. So the perfect bio, we just talked about defining ourselves. Oftentimes when you have social media accounts at the top, Tiffany, what's one of the first things they ask you to do when you fill it out?
Oh, to give your bio.
The bio, right? And so we talked about this elevator pitch, right? And having a little bit of time to say who you are. On social media, it makes you force yourself to be concise about who you are, because someone can look at your account and in 3 seconds decide if they want to follow you, decide if they want to be in community with you, decide if they want to be your friend, decide if they like to reach out for something, right? So we have to make that bio very important, and not only online, in person as well, right? Right now we're talking about online. So I think everybody knows this gentleman here. This is former President Barack Obama. And his bio, can you read his bio for me, Tiffany?
Brevity is key. Don't be humble. A little humor goes a long way. Make it visually appealing. Include a call to... Oh, I'm reading the wrong thing.
That's all right. Keep going.
Embrace the power keywords. Avoid overused buzzwords and consider platform. But Barack Obama's bio says, dad, husband, president, citizen.
Dad, husband, president. In that order, right?
In that order.
What does his bio, in that order? Tell me about what his bio makes you think about him. I'm sure everybody has thoughts about Barack Obama, but just the way he stated that. Go ahead, Tiffany.
Well, I would say, he identified that he's a dad, and so the fathers that do follow him, or mothers or whomever, knows that he's a dad, right? And then you have the marriage community. So there's folks that say, oh wow, he's a husband. I definitely want to follow him. I wonder what him and Michelle, when they go on date nights and things of that nature. So he's probably going to post some stuff like that. President, of course, letting us know that he was our fearless leader of the United States of America. And if anyone may be inspired to be a president one day, or vice president, or even getting into politics. And citizen, the most important piece. I definitely will follow Barack Obama because he's a citizen just like me. And he identified that, I'm human. I'm just like you, and I'm a citizen. So
that's right. Yes. Thank you for reading that. Yes, it is so critically important that the first thing that he put was dad. That makes people think something already. That is a personal brand. He was the leader of the free world for 8 years. And what was most important for you to know about that man is that he's a father to 2 girls.
Yeah.
Right? That's important. That's how he defined himself. Now we think about a whole bunch of other things. He was the first Black president. He was, like I said, leader of the free world. He's a orator. He's a this, he's a that. He's a history maker. He defined himself as a father. Important that, again, we take the reins and are able to define ourselves. Madeline says, shows his priorities in order of importance. Absolutely. He also, we talk about, in the bullet points that Tiffany read through, Don't be humble. Don't be humble. This is not the time to be scared. When you are introducing and defining yourself for folks, and especially on social media where they're not talking to you face to face, you tell people who you are, right? Also, including a call to action within his bio is a link to his website if you want to know more. Your social media is nothing, and not even social media, but your personal brand, whether you're tabling at a community event, whether you're selling something on Instagram, is nothing unless you are showing the product always. That would be like being at a community event as a entrepreneur with like if I had a candle company and I show up with the table and I bring my candles. Well, what you doing here? And I'm sitting here telling you, like, my candles smell so good. They're great. Yes, I have a new spring collection. And people are like, okay, so where are they? How do I buy them? Oh, I'll get back in touch with you. No, that's terrible. And I know we have met folks, and everybody, again, this is a learning experience, but we have met folks in real life who we've had great conversations with, and then realize, like, I don't think I got their number. I don't have a way to get in touch with them. I don't have a way to purchase their or support their business, right? So we always want to make sure that we're including a call to action or including our product in everywhere that we are everything that we're doing. As you can see, even in this slideshow at the top, on every slide, I've had your voice, your power, your vote. You know why? Because it's the theme of the summit this year. Folks need to remember that. And whether you look at it every time we change the slide, it doesn't matter. It is right there because it's a brand. That is a brand that Jovita has worked very hard to curate for this year, right? So let's move on. Some other folks' bios. I wanted to give some examples because they could be fun, being cheeky. Shonda Rhimes, who was the creator of hit show Scandal. I don't know if we have any Scandal fans. She says, I make stuff up for a living. It's not real, okay? Don't tweet me your craziness. And then she links to her TED Talk. And she also links to her website where you can find out more about the creativity that she's created, right? Rihanna said, throwing shade all day, Fenty Beauty. Simple, to the point, right? You know who Rihanna is. She's iconic, but she linked to her brand and her company in her bio and let it be said like that, right? So using your space well. Even for us, again, the Mayor's Office of Youth Engagement, our bio on Instagram is Leaders of the New School, home of the Philadelphia Youth Commission and Philadelphia Millennial Advisory Committee, making municipal government cool. That's what I wanted folks to know about us. We are making government, civics, all the stuff that feels boring, because especially when I talk to young folks, people are like, the interest isn't always there because it's like, it's government, but we're making it, right? So Tiffany, I thought I had yours up there, but Tiffany, what's your bio? Do you have it up?
Yeah, actually I was let me pull it up real quick. So, and I got some tidbits from this, so I think I'm going to cut mine down a little bit, make it more simple. But my 5th page bio says, I created this Instagram to encourage you to make a healthy conscious to change your current lifestyle to a healthier lifestyle. Health is wealth. So I'm probably going to chop that down a little bit, make it a little simple, more simpler. But yeah, that's what my bio says for my 5th page.
Love that. Love that. And Dr. Bennett put in her bio, she said, PhD, wife, mom, orator with a TED Talk, important real estate investor, celebrity consultant. I am 28 years old and I own 27 properties debt free. Let me teach you how. Come on now. That's what I'm talking about. Everything that you need to know about Dr. Bennett is right there. Whether you would have questions for her about her PhD program and how she made it through, whether you want to get into real estate, she's in that, she's a mom. If you want to know information about, children or get any advice around that, she tells you how old she is. We know she's a millennial. This is amazing. Thank you for dropping that, Dr. Bennett. Jovita, so the folks making government cool. We're trying. So let's push forward, right, to talk about where and when, because that's always important too. And so I'll tell you what I mean by that. All social media platforms are not built the same. We do not use everything for everything. So I will give you an example. I love digital resume, Dr. Bennett. To be heard. If you have things to say, things to get off your chest, I would recommend, this may not be everybody's recommendation, but I would recommend Twitter, podcasts, and you can see this is the Apple podcast or a Spotify podcast, right? I don't know if folks listen to podcasts. Sydney, you listen to podcasts? I didn't mean to get you while you drink water.
You know what? I'm going to start listening to podcasts because I actually want to do the podcast with the young man that we had the story with. So we're talking about that, doing a podcast and getting our forgiveness story out there.
Yes. Yes. So in order to make sure that we're being appropriate about how we're using our platforms, because that can also turn off our followers and the communities that we're trying to build, right? Twitter is for you to put out succinctly quick responses to current events or fun tidbits about how you're feeling, or a comment here about something that happened or something fun. That's what it's for. That's what we use it for, to release statements, right? So that people can hear your voice quickly. And then podcasts so that you can, hop on and have longer conversations about whatever it is that you're passionate about. So we use these platforms to be heard, to be seen. We use Instagram, TikTok. I know if y'all know Gen Zers or young millennials, TikTok is everything. Or Snapchat. Please, please, please refrain. I've had to do it just because we work in government. Please refrain from putting long paragraphs on Instagram. People don't want to see that. I want to see your pictures. I want to see your life curated in snapshots, right? That's what Instagram is for. If you have a long story to tell, there's other platforms for that. But please, these shorter visual platforms are for just that. So when you're using your TikTok and when you're using your Instagram, be creative about how you tell the story, right? So instead of taking a picture in the house, go outside, find a tree, find some light, find some grass, find a nice background, take a picture with your friends, take a picture of your food, right? Have fun and be visual. So to tell a story, Facebook, YouTube. If anybody doesn't know, this last app is Medium. That's if you need more long form content. If Tiffany wanted to write up a blog about the story she shared with us earlier, she would use one of these platforms, right? Not necessarily her Instagram account, right? Not necessarily Twitter either, right? Even though people create threads on Twitter. Not necessarily those. These spaces, or she could use her YouTube channel, right? To do a vlog or a story time, right? So these platforms are a little bit better for that longer form kind of content. And then to get hired, I don't know many people who are not on LinkedIn. If you are of working age and you are either seeking career or you're sharing about career or things that you are doing, folks, use LinkedIn. It is very important to be a part of. I think even as people, if you don't love social media, it is important for employers and your peers to be able to see what you do, right? That's also how you build community. In the middle, that is an app called Squarespace. If you are an entrepreneur, if you are a creative, having your own personal website is very important. Not gone are the days, I know people used to have physical portfolios, right? Artists who would keep their like pictures or canvases or paintings or whatever the case may be, put it online. I cannot tell you, I know all of us have found things to buy offline because you saw somebody's art in an Instagram post, or you saw some sneakers or a dress or whatever you buy from social media because somebody was able to post it, right? And you were able to click a link and go shop it, right? I see a comment. The website is Unerased Black Women Speak. Oh, tell about a podcast. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Jovita. And then WordPress is similar, that you can kind of create your own personal website. So let us move forward. So build it and it will come. That is why we are here, right? Last but almost most importantly, I wanted to talk to you about, we talked about ourselves, we talked about defining ourselves, we talked about our personal brand. Now we have to talk about who we are talking to. So before we wrap up soon, shortly, some tips and tricks. Platforms, these are platforms that you use. And I assume, I want to say that we'll be able to share this presentation out. Jovita, let me know if that's okay, because I would love for you all to have this presentation just for notes. But some cool design apps that can make your content and your imagery look really nice for social media, or for, if you have a company and you need stickers or labels and things like that. Canva, I'm going to tell you right now, I made this PowerPoint in an app called Canva. It is my favorite app ever. It makes stuff come to life. It is so fun. It is so cool. Tiff, do you use Canva?
No, but I'm going to start.
I'm telling you, It will make you look, I'm not a professional, whatever this is. People who do this stuff, I don't know. People who do design and like computer design, I don't know none of that, but it is so easy to use. And it just elevates your brand that much more, because people know when I come to do a PowerPoint presentation, it's going to be pretty because that's my brand. I like visual healing stuff, right? So we can find platforms and apps that will help us make our things aesthetically pleasing or have it look how you want it to look. So
wow,
share that with you. Oh, Jovita said we can share the slide deck. Perfect. So you all will have this shortly after we wrap today. But let's talk a little bit about, this is my favorite part. We could talk for another hour about this, but we only have 15 minutes, so we will make it quick. Who are you talking to when you are trying to share your brand and share your story? It is very important. We do not speak to our grandmothers in the way that we speak to our nieces and nephews, right? You don't speak to your mother the same way you speak to your sister. There's different language, there's different inflections, there's different degrees of reverence, right? And so when we're marketing ourselves and marketing our stories or our products, it's the same thing. So what's interesting about the time that we are living in is that we are uniquely living in a time where we are 5 generations spanning at the same time and almost in the workplace together at the same time. I will tell you what I mean by that. So who are we talking to? The greatest generation is still alive. My grandmother is 95 years old. They are still alive. She goes downtown twice a week to Citizens Bank to do her bank.
I love it.
She goes to the post office. They know her on the 33. She lives in North Philly. They know her on the 33 bus. Miss Marie. She gets on, she gets off, she goes to Progress Plaza to get her her groceries at the Fresh Grocer. Everybody knows her, right? These women, and I'm focusing on women because it's Women's History Month. These women are still here. And they're still with us. So some famous folks from this generation: Queen Elizabeth, Rosa Parks, Betty White, Fannie Lou Hamer, Shirley Chisholm, right? They are women of gravity, seriousness. These are women who were born during World War I, right? You see a picture there. Those are the women of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated who are marching for women's suffrage to get the right to vote, right? These are women that have some seriousness about them, right? They felt a moral obligation to make things better. They're still with us. I'm not talking to them women on social media. You know why? Because my Mimi don't have social media. She reads her mail. All right. Tiffany, you do constituency service stuff.
Yes.
Not reading on social media if you put a post up, right? That's somebody who needs to be canvassed. Maybe you knock on Miss Marie's door, right? Maybe you send her a piece of mail about new programs and resources, right? So let's move on over to the silent generation, a little bit younger than those folks. They were born, this is the World War II generation, right? Jane Fonda, Wilma Rudolph, Barbara Jordan, right? Who were able to see the strides that these women from the greatest generation made, able to push that forward. They were part of the military, also a very serious generation. They call them silent because often folks, they feel overlooked, right? They were very duty driven, very work driven, very patriotic, right? Similar way we're doing outreach to them. They are not on social media. They are our grandmothers. They are sometimes our great grandmothers, and they need traditional outreach, right? And how we talk to them and how we share information about what's going on now is going to be completely different. Let's move on over to the boomers. Everybody knows a boomer. My mother is a boomer. I love them dearly. I love them dearly. Oprah Winfrey, Ellen DeGeneres, Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, Angela Merkel. This is the civil rights generation. This is Woodstock. This is the 60s. This is young women who were on the front lines. Jovita, I know y'all all know Jovita very well. She is an iconic boomer for me. Who
I said the baby boomers had fun.
Listen. And as a mentor for me in our office, I'm always so inspired by the way she tells me and encourages us to speak up. There is no filter. I say what I need to say, and you cannot like it, or you can, right? So these are the boomers. The boomers, though, because a lot of their children are Gen Xers and millennials, are a little more tech savvy. So boomers will open their emails. They open their emails. My mother opens her emails every single day. She opens every single email, every one, even if it's junk mail or spam, right? They also are into traditional mail. They also have Facebook, huge on Facebook. They love social media. My mom goes on Facebook every day, share all our business, right? So there are a bunch of different ways that we can market or share story or brand information or resources with these folks, right? Let's move on over to Gen X. Gen X is the MTV generation.
That's
65.
me.
Is that you?
Yes.
My sister is a Gen Xer, very unique generation. They call them latchkey kids, right? Oftentimes their mothers were at work and they came home. They were independent. I made my own breakfast, lunch, dinner, was done my homework. Mama walked in, I'm about to get in the bed or I'm on the phone with my friends, right? These are very independent women, right? They also, they didn't think twice about being in the workforce, right? At all, right? Women worked. Women go to work, get up and go to work just like any other man, right? So what we're dealing with, so folks like this, Tyra Banks, I can't see the rest of my screen, but Tyra Banks, Queen Latifah, Mariah Carey, these are all Gen Xers, right? Oftentimes Gen Xers, they have a little bit of I call my sister, it's a little sassiness that comes from, it's like teen angst, right? Like, it's like, you're gonna hear me, right? Tiffany, you identify?
Yes, I
You're
can.
gonna hear me, right?
And
So
we're
these
hard
are
workers. We are worker bees. We work.
That's right.
We got all that information from the baby boomers. We know we gotta work. Okay.
And often they call Gen X the bridge generation. They remember times, two different times, right? They remember VHS and cassettes, and they remember when computers first came out. They probably were the first kids in school to use computers.
Yeah.
They understand a little bit of the traditional media, but they also understand more new age stuff. So they are very much so a bridge generation between the boomers and the millennials. So millennials, that would be me. We're between 1980 and 1995. They call us the social media pioneers. We grew up most of our lives, probably around teenage years, on social media. We had cell phones in schools. We were the first kids to have cell phones in school. I see people, you better talk about it. Yes, we very, very much so outspoken. Our parents are the boomers, so we learned there's a narrative about millennials being spoiled or kind of like, having a lot to say, but we learned the honest, right? Our parents were boomers. They were the civil rights generation, right? They taught us to speak up, speak out. A lot of us care a lot about, in the workplace, about mental health and wellness. We will quit a job before we make you work us to the bone. We're not doing it, right? It's over, right? Those times they're changing. The Me Too movement, who was started by Tarana Burke, who is a Gen Xer, she was able to organize a coalition of a lot of younger women and millennials to help push that forward and change the workplace in a lot of spaces. So those are millennials. Some of popular millennials are Beyonce, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, you may know her as Cori Bush, Rihanna, Lauren Underwood, Meghan Markle. So that is us. And then last but certainly not least, the babies that I work with, Gen Z. Some of you may have Gen Zers. Tiffany, you have two Gen Z girls.
Yes, I do. Yes.
Are powerful beyond measure. They are the distillation of all of those women and generations, and they don't take nothing from nobody.
And they're entrepreneurs like crazy.
Yes. And I will tell you that you talk about social media and branding. These kids grew up through social media. They don't know anything different. They have personal brands before 9th and 10th grade. Every young person that we follow on social media or interact with, they have their own business. They making cupcakes. They having a pop-up shop. They have a 501c3. They're amazing. They're amazing organizers. They are able to pull things together like this, right? And so how we're telling stories to them and millennials and Gen Xers, folks who grew up in the social media age, needs to be completely different than how we talk to some of our elders. So we are at 11:56 again. I can talk about this all day. Maybe we'll come back and do a part 2 because it's very important for us to know how to cater messaging to each of these separate folks, especially when you have the same message going out, but it needs to sound a different way and it needs to be sold in a different way. So Anybody, y'all can tap in. I see some folks talking about what generation they are. I see Gen X. Who else do we have in here? I know Jovita's a boomer. Love that. Love that. So needless to say, thank you all so much. It has been my pleasure to be with you this morning. My information is here. If you have any questions at all, reach out to us at youthengagement@phila.gov and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at PHL Youth. But again, you'll get this slide deck right after this, but I am honored to hand it on off to Jovita Hill. So Jovita. And thank you, Tiffany. I thank Tiffany White from the Philadelphia Commission for Women for sharing her story and being a part. Love you, Tiff. And Jovita, please take it.
Love you too, Jeanette.
Wow. Jeanette, Tiffany, this morning has been powerful. It's been fun. It's been exciting. It's been colorful. And for those of you who are on with us this Saturday, Jeanette will be back next Saturday with her program. And you can also follow all of the other programs for the rest of our schedule for Women's History Month is in the chat. Check us out. We've got programming all the way up to March 31st. So check us out. So as Jeanette mentioned, I'm the executive director of the Philadelphia Commission for Women and Office of Engagement for Women. I really appreciate that you've joined us for this is our 6th installment of our virtual series, Your Voice, Your Power, Your Vote, Making Democracy Work. And again, registration information on attending future programs in this series are in the chat. For those of you who are not familiar with the Philadelphia Commission for Women, we were established by a unanimous ballot referendum in 2015, charged with promoting policy recommendations to the mayor, city council, and the city's decision makers on issues of gender equity and social justice. And by the way, that legislation was sponsored by former Councilwoman Blondell Reynolds Brown. And just for a little history about the commission, it's almost 30 years since there was a Commission for Women. And that was because the Commission for Women was an executive order. And what Blondell Reynolds Brown did was make it legislation so that Philadelphia will always have a Commission for Women. And under that legislation, I am honored to be the first executive director of this commission. And to this extent, our priorities have been wage equity, access to affordable childcare, fair work week scheduling that provides for predictable scheduling, especially for people working in the retail, fast food, and hospitality industries, raising the minimum wage, access to affordable housing for formerly incarcerated women, access to affordable childcare, and access to menstrual hygiene products for school-age people. And that's free menstrual hygiene products. We also helped to advance the legislation that for the first time gives protections to domestic workers. This series was inspired by the difference that women in general and Black women in particular have made in the 2020 elections that delivered the first Black and Asian American vice president. And this accomplishment was followed by our democracy being under siege on January 6th. And today, we are eyewitnesses to the fragility of democracy when we see what is going on in Ukraine. And with this in mind, and throughout the rest of this year, our programming will be dedicated to encouraging voter participation. The Philadelphia Commission is comprised of 27 people, of which one member is appointed by each of 17 council members. 10 members are appointed by the mayor. So once again, I'd like to thank Jeanette and the Office of Youth Engagement for planning today's fabulous and engaging program. Thank you, Tiffany, for sharing your poignant story and inspiring all of us. And thank you, Vanessa Fields, who is on this today. Vanessa Fields happens to be the chair of the Philadelphia Commission for Women. And of course, I want to thank our communications and digital coordinator, Saptarshi Dutt, who makes our job so much easier and making us able to be on this platform without a glitch. Thank you, Saptarshi. So once again, check out the rest of our schedule for the month. Thank you for joining us today. Happy Easter and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you.